Okay, let's quickly add in some materials to the ball, onto the face and the eyes, the floor, the wall, and then add in some light and animate the camera. So what I want to do before that is go into rendered shading mode. So right here, we have shading mode, and this just shows you how it is with the shading in the materials. But it doesn't take into consideration the light and the shadows and a bunch of other things. If we go to this last sphere right here, you could see its viewport, shading, and this displays it basically how your final animation will actually look. And now it's taking into consideration the light from the lamp, all the shadows and all of that. So it looks more like the final result of how it will actually look. This is called rendered viewport shading with Eva. Now, Eva is just a rendering engine that we're using in Blender. You could see that from here, rendering selected to EVA. We also have the one from before, which was Cycles. However, the EVA render engine is the newest one. Now, right here, this is a light. Not that that's a plane. This one right here is a light. If we go to the light properties right here, you can see we have different kinds of lights. We have a point, a sun, a spot, and an area light. We have the color of the light, the power, or how much light is emitting from its speculatory or the shine of it, the radius, and then some shadow properties and other things as well. For now, we're just going to switch to a sun lamp. As you can see now, he's being burned by the sun, which is not good. So let's decrease the strength. You can see that on the point light. A strength of 1,000 is very low. A sun lamp, a strength of 1,000 is very high. So here, I'm just going to put the strength to something like 4. Also with the sunlight, if you hit her to rotate it or a twice to do tumble rotation, you will see that however you rotate, it is basically however the sun is positioned in the sky and will dictate how much daytime or sunrise or sunset and which way the shadows are going. So let's just go ahead and position it in a way that you like. I'm just going to position it something like this for now. All right, let's select the ball right here. Go to the Materials tab, add a new material, we'll name it Ball, and let's make it red. Why not? Since he's blue, we're going to make the ball red for his eyes and mouth. I'm just going to select one. I click New, and I'm going to leave it white. However, I'm going to increase the brightness right here all the way to white, though. I'm going to shift-select both the mouth and the other. I select that one control, copy the materials, so that they all have that white material, and let's name it Face Suite. And then lastly, for the wall and the floor, I'm just going to give them also a basic, let's try to make it black. See how that looks a black material. Maybe I'm going to make the wall black and the floor white. So I'm going to name this wall. And the floor, I'm just going to leave it to the default settings of a new material. All right, there we go. One last thing I want to do because we're going to animate the camera now, and I don't want to see you like all this grid space here. I guess like the plane had tab to go into edit mode, select these vertices right here and hit the EKI to extrude Z and bring it up like that. And then I want to create kind of a backdrop type effect. So I'm going to go to the Modifiers tab, add Modifier Subdivision Surface, and you can see that it basically subdivides it and smooths it out. However, it smoothed it out too much. Now with the subdivision surface, if we had tab to go into edit mode, the reason it's smoothed that out so much is because right now it's smoothing out from here all the way to here and from here all the way to here to sharpen that out. We could add in some loop cuts by hitting Control, or we could add in a loop. We here, left click, and then slide it all the way here, and don't bring it totally against the other one, but just next to it. You don't want it to be on top of the other vertices, but just next to it. And so now, instead of smoothing from here all the way to here, it's smoothing from here to here. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to control our out of loop. Cut there. And then control or at a loop cut like this to the bottom like that. And then control or at a loop cuts here, another one here. Again, don't position it directly on top. You never want duplicate vertices to be one on top of the other. They could be really close to each other, but you don't want them on top of the other. And then we're going to have control or at a loop cut there. So now if we click Shield Smooth, you could see that it's smoothed out and subsurface, but it's also a little bit sharper than the original way. But it's not so sharp where it was when it was a cube. All right, and this gives us a kind of nice backdrop type effect like that. We could even select this plane to extrude and just extrude this back into the wall so that it looks like a solid wall. Why not? All right, cool. Now it's 4-camera animation and movement now. Now again, this is the camera. Whatever it sees is what you will see in the final animation. If we had 0 to go into camera view right now, we're going to render out and have an animation of his feet. Brilliant, but not really. So select the camera and hit G to move it. And then if you hit G middle mouse button, you could zoom out. And I'm going to zoom out and bring it to about here. Now I'm going to move the sun lamp because I want his face to be lit. So I'm going to, like that goes like this also, and scale it up a little bit because right there it was going past the camera, and there we go. All right, so with the camera, we're going to do a very simple camera. Animation and other animations will do more complex ones. I'm going to hit it. Location, rotation, scale. Let's go ahead as he's walking. And maybe right around frame 40, I'm going to hit Gia and bring the camera over, and then hit middle mouse button to zoom it out and bring it to about right there. And I don't want to see the wall in the corner, so I'm going to eye location on rotation scale. So now it goes like that. You can see the camera's animated super cool. Also, let's do one thing. Let's go to the camera properties, go to viewport display, and underpays Passepartout. I always call it pass out. Passepartout increase the opacity because this right here, we're not going to see it in the render. And sometimes it can be a little bit deceiving because you think you will see more than you actually will. So now we're sure to see only what we will see in the actual final animation. So it goes here, stops, looks down, and then when he kicks it. When he right here, I want the camera to be in this position up until here. So I'm going to select the camera and hit eye location, rotation scale, and then I'm going to go ahead and move ahead 1 frame. So if I move ahead 1 frame and I want the camera to be positioned about here, or actually I kind of want to see his facial expression. So maybe about here. And if you hit Control Alt 0 on the numpad, it will position your camera in the view that you're in the eye and just hit eye location, rotation scale. So you can see from this frame to that frame right away and then right around here. Right when he gets hit in the face, or right before he gets hit, I'm going to hit my location rotation scale because I want the camera to stay there, and then when he gets hit and falls. Right around here, frame 90, when he falls, I'm going to hit X or Y and bring the camera over and center him in the scene right there, with the ball being seen a little bit to the side. And let's see what that gives us. All right, let's go ahead and play this spacebar to place C. So that looks awesome right there. I actually want us to see the wall a little bit before, so maybe I'm going to take these 2 keyframes right here. Those ones, and I'm going to hit Gia and bring them back, like that, so that when he's looking down the wall at the ball, we could see the wall still when he's looking down that way. It's not so abrupt. And you're wondering, what the heck just happened? There we go. Cool. So that is our little animation right there. Now let's go back to the light. Let's select in the outliner here. Let's make it a light yellowish color, kind of like the sun, so that it has a little bit more. Obviously, you could color your light again. I'm just going to give a light yellowish color. I'm going to try to rotate it. Actually, I'm just going to give it less strength. I'm going to give a strength of 3, like that. And let's go ahead and play that and see what that looks like. Maybe not so yellow. It's a little too yellow right there. They call it mellow yellow. And there we go. All right, sweet. Now, how do we render this out again? You could play around with it. You could make completely different camera movements if you like. This is my personal camera movements. You can make different camera movements depending on how you want to do it. Boom! It's a pretty comedic now to render this out. Go to the render settings right here, or actually right here, sorry, and right here. This is the resolution. It's going to render out 1920 by 10 AM, and the at 100% aspect ratio 1:1, which is fine. The most important thing is start framing and frame, which is fine. It goes from 1 to 128. The frame rate, 24 frames per second, which is perfect. And then the main thing you guys select is right here. We got to create a folder. So I'm going to go to the folder. This is where our animation is going to be saved to. So I'm going to go here and let's see on. First animation of our character, I'm going to go here, add in a new folder, and call it Animation 1, and select that folder click, except now we're going to render it out as PMG images and not as a movie. For the most part, you never want to directly render it as a movie. And I'm going to explain why once we start to render it out. So right here, just make sure it's set to make sure you're your folder, not your shoulder. Make sure your shoulder folder is a good start from 1 to 128, or your frame. Could be 150. It could be 100. Whatever your end frame is and all that. Now we're going to go make sure to save first file save, then go to render animation. And also before we render animation, let's do a couple test renders. It's always good. So right here, I'm just going to select render image, and this will render that frame there. Are you so cute? All right, let's skip ahead a couple of frames to here. Let's do render image. And this is good to do before. This is kind of like a rule of thumb, because if you have something in, let's say, you didn't like the shadow here, well, you can now fix that instead of rendering out the whole animation and then fixing it, which is not good because then you have to render the whole animation. And then right here, we're going to render image. One last one, just do like 1 or 3 or so of those. All right, everything seems to be good. So now we're going to go to render animation, and it's going to render all these from frame 1. You could see a frame 1. This frame took 2 seconds and 27 milliseconds to render, and it's going to render all of these frames. So again, 24 of these frames is 1 second of animation. Now the reason we're rendering it into images is because after that, we are going to go to our folder. Whereas here, right here, you can see animation 1. It's rendering out the images. We're going to take these images and put them together into a movie. So to give you an example, if I select and open this image, if I hold down the right arrow to scroll through the images, you can see as I flip through them, it looks like he's moving. So it's kind of like those little flip books that you would do as a kid. You know, you flip through the book, and it looks like he's moving with the Post-it notes. That's exactly what an animation is. The reason you don't want to render it as a movie right away is, let's say your Blender file crashes. Well, you've just lost your whole movie, because if your movie didn't finish, you lost everything. But let's say Blender crashes here at frame 17. You could just reopen Blender Select right here to do the start frame at frame 17 to 128, and just start from frame 17 and go from there. And you don't lose anything before that. So always render out in PNG unless your computer's so fast that renders it out as a video really fast and you don't really care. But if you don't want to lose anything, render it out as images. All right, I will see you in a second. I'm going to put this to pause and let it render out everything. I'll see you briefly. All right, now it's finished rendering out. You could see frame 128. We could go ahead and close this. And now in Blender, what in the world do we do with all these frames? We create a flipbook. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to change this viewport right here to the video sequencer. And the video sequencer allows for us to add sound images and movies together into a final animation movie. We're going to shift and select image sequence, then go ahead and go to your folder, where you have all the images and select them one by one. I'm kidding. Okay, that joke is getting old. I think I've made that joke in every single one of my courses. Just hit a key and select Add Image Strip, and then hit the key and make sure to move it to frame 1 right there. Now it goes from frame 1 to 128. A cool thing you could do. Also change it from sequencer to sequencer plus preview. And so here, if we play it, you can see it's playing, but it's playing at 9 or 8 frames per second. So it's not really useful because we're seeing it at half the speed, boom, or not even half the speed, like a third of the speed. All right? Now, all we have to do is go over here. We're going to change it from PMG to FFM MPEG video, and under the encoding, let's change the encoding to MPEG-4. You also have other options such as QuickTime and AVIN stuff, but I find MPEG-4 works best, and then video codec, it's fine like that. Also, if you want audio, you would select the audio right here and PS3 now right here under post-processing. We have the option checked that says compositing and sequencer. So right now, when we hit render animation, it's actually going to override rendering the animation and instead take what's in the sequencer, which is this image strip, which is in the image sequencer, and it's going to put all these together. So now we're going to render this into an MPEG-4 video. So click Render Animation, and you will see that goes a lot faster because now it's not having to render and to calculate all the stuff from the animation. It doesn't have to calculate the materials and light and shadows and everything, but instead, it's just putting pictures together into an animation, so it goes a lot faster. Man, are you guys so cute? All right. So I'm going to let this play out and render out, and we'll see the final result once this is done. Boom. All right. Now that that's done, let's go to our folder, and you can see we have the video right here. It's called 1 to 128. Sounds like a good movie to me. Let's check it out, guys. Do. Well, all right. I'm going to put this to repeat, and there we go. You have now created your first animation now. Might be going a little bit slow here because I have the recording software going on at the same time. But there you go. Pretty cartoonish, pretty funny, and awesome little animation that we created here. Now that you've made your animation, of course, make sure to share it on the forums at blendermania3d.com. Share your animation there. I cannot wait to see what it looks like. Go ahead and change the color, change the camera angles, expand on the animation, and make it your own again. Share it there on the forums. Look forward to seeing it. Choof for now of work. I will see you in the next animation.